I see a lot of people online all the time. Here's a group of 5 prompts that could be life-changing or should be illegal for you even to have. And they're short, probably 2 or 3 sentences long. That's not a prompt. Yeah, those will give you a response. But it's really sort of like you're unconsciously incompetent in the fact that you're getting a response each time and you don't know how good it could actually be.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to AIS's brand new podcast. This is our pilot called Tech Made Human. We're so excited to launch this. The goal of this podcast is really to connect more with our small to medium-sized business owners. We want to cut out all the jargon that sometimes office technology brings, and we want to educate and inform. And if you haven't heard of us yet, this will be a great introduction to who we are and what we do. But the most exciting part, I think, about this first pilot is that we're going to be talking about AI. And I know AI is huge. There's so much to it. I mean, we could go on and on for years talking about it. But what's most special about it is that we have our very own AI guru, who I like to call. His name is Keven Ellison. He's our VP of marketing here at AIS. He's been with the company, over 8 years now, and has really started us on this journey of embracing AI when it first kind of hit. So I want him to kind of talk a little bit about himself first and introduce himself, and then we'll get into some AI questions that relate to small businesses, and we'll go from there. So Keven, hi, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Marissa. Thanks for having me. So I guess to give you a short background of me, I've been in marketing and marketing technology companies for over 30 plus years. And although I've been here at AIS for 8 years, when they first told me that AI was going to be bigger than the internet, I sort of reflected for a moment and looked at my life and my business life. And that was when I started in business, we didn't have a cell phone or we didn't have the internet. And so when they told me that something is going to be bigger than the internet, I decided to jump in with 2 feet all the way in. And I decided that I was going to immerse myself in this because I wanted to learn everything I possibly could about it. And I'm still on that learning journey today.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of getting into our first question, and it's funny sometimes because I know that you've been doing a lot of speaking engagements. You spoke with tons of SMB owners about AI and how they've been incorporating it or their lack of. So one of my first questions that I think is interesting is when an SMB comes to you or you hear SMBs on LinkedIn talk about AI and they say, oh yeah, we're doing AI now. Yeah, our company is using ChatGPT. We use AI all the time. Are they really doing it, or what does that typically mean for your standard SMB when they talk about that they are using AI?
Well, I think it goes back to understanding what level that is, because I think that people that are just using ChatGPT, or they may be using Claude, which is Anthropic's LLM or chatbot, or Gemini by Google. If they're just putting prompts in and using it on maybe a daily basis to rewrite emails or to maybe understand their strategy or maybe even look at a workflow or just ask it a question, because a lot of people are just using it much like internet search was or being used when we were all going to Google. I think that that's just touching the cusp of it. And I'm finding that, number one, most SMBs and most small to medium-sized businesses are not using AI to its fullest. And I think that even when I look at our own company, we could be using it in a much more broad sense. So I can see that we're just still learning what the capabilities are, and there's so much information out there and there's so many tools that are out there that I think it's just still at its infancy stage when we're talking about adoption within the small to medium sized business.
Yeah, I agree. And it makes me think about using AI in the most meaningful way. So, what's going to be the best way that a specific team or a specific division in your company is genuinely using AI to the best of the ability? Because at the end of the day, we want AI to help us. We want it to help us cut down some tasks. We want more time back. We don't want to spend too much money on it without feeling like we're gaining something from it. And so I wanted to ask you if you would tell the story of when you first started bringing AI into our marketing department. You know, I'm our content manager, so I write all of our blogs, and I've been doing it for 7.5 years now. I was so resistant at first. And I think that's still where so many people are, especially when they are in the field of, well, I'm doing this, it works. Why do I need AI? And I kind of want you to go into a little bit of detail why I was so hesitant at first and what you had to do as my mentor and as the leader of our team to kind of alter and shift the way I thought about AI in the beginning.
Sure. I think that's a really good lead in. And when I say that, we're really lucky in marketing to get access to AI early on. And the reason for that is because AI is really good about writing and developing content. It's now really good at creating images, also video. It also great at collaboration and brainstorming and strategy. So marketing was really lucky to get it first. Now, adoption with a team like our marketing team and you being part of it, I think that there was maybe a little bit of friction in the beginning. And that is because we all take ownership of what we do. And we take ownership, and you're in content. We have a video producer. We also have a designer. We also have a social media and digital marketing specialist. And so it's very difficult for something coming along that's going to either enhance what we currently do or modify what we currently do to make our jobs better and easier and much more efficient. And so I think the telltale sign was when I first was talking to you about it, I said, hey, I think that we should have AI start writing our blog articles and content on the website. And you came back to me and said, Kevin, I know you're into AI and I know that you see this and that it's going to be a very useful tool for us, but it just can't write as good as I can. And I think that's probably something that we all have to consider, or we all maybe have to be a little humbled by. And when I say that is because I think the storyline went where I said, well, why don't you give me one of your best articles you've written, and then also give me the next article you're going to write. And so I went home that evening and I quickly asked ChatGPT, and this was probably a year and a half ago or maybe 2 years ago, where I had ChatGPT build a style guide. And when I say a style guide, I had it read your article, and then I wanted it to write the guide on how it could write another article using your exact style, just like it was going to be you as the author. And then I took a topic that you were going to write about, and I asked it to do the research and then write an article using the style guide that was Marissa. And the next day I came back and I gave that to you, and your words were, wow, Kevin, that's the best article you've ever written. And I said, I didn't write that article. AI wrote that article. And I think that was the turning point for you to say, okay, I'm all in. Now let's see where this can go. And so that's where the journey has led us, and it's now in history books for us.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And y'all, that story is 100% true. I was very fearful. I did feel a little like my job was going to get taken away from me. And Kevin, what's the quote we always say? You won't lose your job to AI, but you might lose your job to someone that knows how to use AI. And I think once I wrapped my head around that, it became more of a shift of let me have AI help me instead of let me have AI take this away from me. So, and that's not just in marketing, that's going to be in every single department. And kind of speaking off of that, you know, Kevin, You have gotten to a point that is starting to trickle down into our marketing team as well as sales and service. Um, just about some of the tools that we personally have started to build using AI, or we have started to implement using AI that really kind of have started to push the boundaries of, hey, this actually is working, or hey, like this really is saving us some time.
Okay, great. So let me flip the role on you, Marissa, and let me ask you a question and interview you, because this is a story that'll lead us into the next part of the journey. And that is, can you tell me how long and the just sort of a short synopsis of you, what it takes for you to write an article and how many articles you were able to write being a content manager at our organization, say a year and a half or 2 years ago?
Sure. When I first started, like I said, about 7.5 years ago, our goal was to write 8 blogs a month, so about 2 a week. As we progressed and you and I synced more and we built up our marketing team, I think we got to I think 3 a week. So around 12 a month, and that was really give or take because I have other responsibilities. I'm not just the blogger. So I was pretty capped at 12 a month, and that was starting from me doing basic keyword research, organic research, going to analytics tools and figuring out what topics we needed to write about. Then I started just writing from scratch. And that included, it could be hours of editing. It could be me interviewing a subject matter expert, trying to get on their calendar, especially if it was someone in sales who's constantly going to appointments and meetings. So it was a time suck for sure. Also linking and making sure I had all those basic SEO fundamentals in my article. So looking back, I mean, it could take me some days, it could take me a couple days to complete an article, because then I would have you review it. I'd have the subject matter, it was this whole process. If we fast forward to now, because of what we have designed for articles, I think, what did I tell you the other day? I sat down, I started my timer for an 8-hour day. I only got up for lunch, went back to my desk. I was able to complete 10 blogs with our AI resources that we have created in one day, which was just mind blowing.
Yeah, and when you think about it, because each of those blogs are at least 1,000 words each, they have research that have been done in them. They're based on keywords. There's subject titles. We have things called H1 and H2 tags. All of those things done. But this gets to the point of, we have defined the process of how it is that you write and built the style that you write. And we've also put what we call the endless customer methodology, which is a methodology we were taught on how to write really good they ask you answer. Again, this is all by Marcus Sheridan, on how to write articles. And then there's things like, we need to put in external links and internal links. We need to make sure that we might put FAQs in those articles. There's a lot that goes into writing each of those articles. So what we did was, we built something what's called as a GPT, which is a little bit of a small little application within ChatGPT, so that we can just tell it a topic and it'll do the research. It'll write the article in the format that we want, and now we can use it. We can see an outline of it. We can modify that outline, and then we can tell it to write that article. So there's first, whenever you're looking at each of the different large language models like OpenAI's ChatGPT, or Anthropic's Claude, or Gemini's or Google's Gemini, that each of these has what are called a GPT, or in Anthropic they may call it a project, or with Google they may call it a gem. And these can all be built within these large language models or AI tools that are foundation models that we use. So that's the beginning part. The next part of that is to take and build workflow automations. And I guess, if you don't mind, I'll go right into what that is all about. So for an example, we know that it's important for a brand like our company to be posting on LinkedIn on a regular basis. And in doing so, we have to look at what the time constraints it takes for someone to post. Now, everyone in our company, most specifically the sales team, should all be posting on a regular basis. The marketing team should be, all of our subject matter experts, they should all be posting on a regular basis. Because what that does, if they're posting very good content out there, it's actually lifting the brand of the organization. Now, there's some challenges that go along with that. Number one, it takes time to write an article or write a post about an article online. Number two, you need to know the information that you're going to write about. Three, you need to refine or find the information that you're going to write about. And then four, you got to create the post. Now, I went through this process with one of the executives on our team and asked him to take me through his process to do a post on LinkedIn. Okay, so he went to do a search and found out what he wanted to write about. He went online, did a Google search, put his information in and said, hey, I want to write about this. And then he went and looked at a few articles, and then he found an article he wanted to write about. Now he's got the article he wants to write about. Now he got to figure out what he wanted to say. The next step was he decided to start writing what he was going to say. The next step was, after he got done what he was writing, he's now going to grammar and spell check that to make sure it's right. Okay, this whole process took about 35 to 40 minutes. Now, when I look at our team, if we were to do this with, say, our sales staff or subject matter experts, if we wanted them to post regularly on a daily basis on our team, that's probably 2 or 3 hours of time that would be taking out of their work week. And we really can't afford to do that. So what we did was we used a tool called make.com, which is a workflow automation. And basically what we did was we said, okay, let's build a style guide. Again, going back to what we did with you, Marissa. We built a style guide for each of the different people on our team. And then we allow them, when you're creating the content, our articles, or even when our videos being produced, we provide links to each of those. And what we did was we built a Google spreadsheet that has each of those links inside it. So now you got a style guide. Now you got the links that you want to talk about. Now we just push out on a daily basis an email that's dropped in the inbox of each of our subject matter experts and our sales staff and any employee that wants to in our organization. And what they get is an email that comes back that is produced by an AI tool like we use Claude to do this. And what it does is it creates 3 different posts for that article. It also creates 3 different hooks, creates the hashtags. It creates everything they need to know so they can just copy and paste. Now, long story short, what does this do for an organization? Well, now we can have everybody on our team posting because we've taken and dropped or increased the efficiency and dropped the time on to do a post on LinkedIn from 40 minutes to 2 minutes. Because now you're getting the content, you're receiving it, and all you have to do is copy and paste, maybe make a few little edits, and boom, you're done. And it really doesn't take much time. That brings up a bigger thing about what AI can do for an organization. You need to look at probably 3 or 4 different areas when you're building something in AI. And that is, or using AI. 1, can you use it to create more revenue? 2, is it going to increase productivity or increase efficiencies? 3, is it going to provide you more information or better insight into your business? Now, if you look at those things on how you are creating and developing for AI, then that's what you need to do going forward. Now, I guess the last part of this journey is, and where I'm going now, and I've gone into a much broader or much probably more production mode of developing tools in AI, is I'm taking what we've learned and building not only using great foundational prompts and then creating GPTs and then looking at somebody's workflow like yours, Marissa. Now we're building what are called agents or agentic AI. And what we're doing is taking our people's workflows and we're taking those and boiling them down to a process that can be done with AI and can be scaled not only for us to use, but also for us to sell or promote to other businesses. Because if we have a really great tool like the way you write content for us to get us on the first page of Google, or now get us into the search engines, AI search engines, for us to have content that's posted that promotes our brand or our company, if we can take that and we can turn that into an AI process, now we can make that scalable for any organization.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. And you touched on, we are helping, well, you and with support of marketing are helping other aspects of our company to kind of take on the role of using AI and getting comfortable with it and just embracing it. And a lot of that does have to do with, well, why? What's the why? And what is the ROI? And what is the success here? And is this going to help save us time? And is this going to help us be able to promote and push more content? And I think a lot of that, and I feel very grateful for it. I know, most people at our company do, is that you have taken on that role just naturally. You have said, I'm going to be the person that people can come to me for AI, and I want to be that go-to. And it's just like any other new initiative at any company, whether you have 5 employees or 2,000, is having that one person that takes that responsibility. So I kind of want you to touch on, if a small business doesn't have that person yet that's really there to embrace it, it's so important. It's so pivotal. So maybe some tips, or how can a company get to a point where they've got a team of 1, 2, or 3 people that are really these solid people that are going to help spread AI throughout the rest of the company?
Sure, that's another great question, and that is, I think there needs to be somebody in your organization that sort of takes on this role, because somebody that's you can go down a bunch of different paths. There's too many tools that are out there that people have built. There's compliance and securing your data. There's important things that you need to do constructively for your organization when it comes to using something like artificial intelligence. And I think there's a need for teaching people how to do it right. And there's also a way that you're going to need to teach people, because not everybody are going to be able to understand the power of AI. I'll give you a couple of examples. This morning I was talking to one of our senior salespeople, and he was talking about some research he did on a company that he was going to be contacting. And when I talked to him and I said, well, are you sure that information is accurate? And he said, what do you mean? It came from both ChatGPT, and it also came from Microsoft's product. And I said, did you know that AI can hallucinate? And he goes, what does that mean? And I said, well, AI is interested in pleasing you as the user and providing you information. And unless you put constraints on it and tell it that you want it to be a devil's advocate, challenge the way you are making decisions, you're telling it to check its work, you're telling it to validate anything it provides you, or have it go back and check its sources or provide you those sources. If you don't do those types of things, then it may hallucinate, and it may, just to please you, provide you information. We can also see that even at a high level. We're seeing it now in business and even in government, where reports are being put out and they just have this hallucinated information that's in it, or links to resources that are not even there. So it's really important that you have somebody in your organization that understands, or you're using somebody that really has a good understanding of AI and what it can do for your organization, as well as how to use the tools properly and put the constraints on it so that you can use it efficiently.
It did make me think again, though. Every time you talk about something, I have questions planned out, but things are just coming to my mind, because you did touch a little bit on risk. And just coming from our company, we work with a lot of healthcare and medical offices. We work with legal firms. We do a lot with education. There are data and privacy concerns, or even ethical concerns, that could potentially come up with AI. And there's always that line of never wanting to cross anything unethical, or share information that we, shouldn't be sharing, or things of that nature. But I do want to talk a little bit about risk, in terms of, are there any unintentional consequences of using AI that maybe an SMB AI user would benefit knowing beforehand?
Sure, that's a fantastic question, because I think given the use of these tools using AI, there's a responsibility that goes along with it. And when I say that is that you have access and we have access to personal identifiable information in our company, PII. And when we have that information, whether it's the customer's data or it's your own personal information for your business, like we have of our staff and employees, that information should not leave your organization. So when you're using AI tools, you got to make sure that either they're secure or that information is being used in an anonymous way. I found that even as simple as when I'm developing a marketing strategy and I want to put in some information on whatever I'm doing, I make sure that I strip out any personal information about anything that I'm doing with it before I upload it into AI. That's one way of doing it. But really the most secure way is probably taking and locking down your usage of it using Copilot by Microsoft. That's one way of doing it, which is really ChatGPT, a version of ChatGPT, or using the enterprise version, or even a higher maybe pay-in usage of one of the LLM tools, because you're going to get that protections, or get the protections you need. So that's really, really important, because if you're just uploading your customer data, or if you're just uploading your staff and employee data, that's a non-starter, really, because you really got to be careful with how you're using and representing your company's information, and we all do not want to get caught sharing that personal information.
Okay, Kev. So I want to talk to you about one of your favorite, or maybe least favorite, at some points, part of AI, and that's prompting. I want you to give us your rundown of what prompting is, why it's so extremely important, and the mistakes that all of us are making with prompting. Because I think a lot of us say now, oh yeah, I know how to do a prompt. I know how to ask AI this, that, and the other. But let me hear your spiel on prompting, because I know you've got a lot to say on it.
Yeah, I'm probably the wrong person to talk about prompting, because I'm so opinionated about it. I think that's because that was the first thing that I really wanted to learn, and that is how to communicate with each of the different LLMs. And it's different with each and every one of them, okay? So, but let's go back to the beginning, and what is a prompt, okay? I think a lot of people probably, with their initial usage of, say, ChatGPT, was they thought this was just like using Google, where they could put a question in and get an answer out. Now, yes, you can. So the basics of how prompting is asking a question, okay, and getting a response back. Now, that's probably one of the biggest, probably great things about ChatGPT or the LLMs, but probably one of the worst things too when it comes from a user's perspective. And when I say that is because it wants to please you, so it wants to give you an answer, okay? And so it's going to try to provide you an answer to any question you ask. But we as humans don't really know how good that question can be. I see a lot of people online all the time in using all the different social media platforms where people say, hey, here's a prompt that's a game changer, or here's a group of 5 prompts that could be life-changing or should be illegal for you even to have. And when I see those and they're short, probably 2 or 3 sentences long, that's not a prompt. That's really a concept. It's a concept of a prompt. What we really need to do is there's 4 basic things that you need to do in building a prompt. One is you have to assign the LLM or the chatbot, ChatGPT, again, Gemini or Claude, you need to, or Grok, you need to assign it an expert role. Give it a role. Tell it to be an expert in something. So like if I was going to write like you, Marissa, I'd say, I want you to be an expert business writer who writes articles for a Fortune 500 business that is a SaaS business or an enterprise business, enterprise software business. And I think that I want you to take that role, be the top 0.1% in your industry, and the last 4 articles you've written have had an increase in traffic and engagement by 280%. Okay, that's a role. Not just, I want you to be a copywriter, okay? The next step that you need to do is you need to provide a context. And the way I sort of, my anecdotal story there is, if you were starting a new job, Marissa, at our company, I wouldn't just give you the laptop and say, okay, go do your job. No, we need to provide context. You need to know about the company. You need to know the tone. You need to know what our products and services are. You need to know where all of our locations are. You need to know all this background information about your organization. After you know that and you have all that information built in, the next thing is you need to tell it what success looks like. Is this going to be a 1,000-word article? Is this going to be a table? Is this going to be a chart? Do you want it to be in a Word document? Do you want it to be strategize with you and ask you questions about it in order to build a strategy? All those things you want it to do to build success. And the last thing, and I just touched on it, but the last thing that you need to do is you need to use these words and say, ask me any clarifying questions to ensure you complete this task with 100% accuracy. If you do that and you didn't do a really good job in roles in the first 1, 2, or 3 questions, it will ask you those qualifying questions. It might ask you, oh, tell me about the tone. Tell me about the audience that you're trying to reach. Tell me how you're going to use this document. Tell me, tell me more, a little bit more about how this successful, the feedback you want from this or the output. You need to really build these as providing so much specificity in these prompts or these questions that you're asking in order to get a great response. Now, those ones that I tell you that are 2 sentences long that I see online all the time that people are sharing, yeah, those will give you a response. But it's really sort of like you're unconsciously incompetent in the fact that you're getting a response each time and you don't know how good it could actually be. I learned this by writing those simple prompts before, and now today my prompts might be 2 or 3 pages long, or it might be a multi-level chain prompt, or it might be the beginning of a strategy and then I will add to it. Then I've learned also now is that we have to write a prompt differently for Claude. If you write for ChatGPT, you got to write it differently for Claude or for Grok or for Gemini. And most people just don't know this. And so what I did, and I think we'll put in the notes of this podcast, is I'll be glad to share with you, I created a GPT it'll ask you questions about the task you're going to do. It'll ask you all the questions, and then it'll write the prompt. It'll ask you which LLM that you're using, and then it'll write the specific prompt for that LLM so you can put it in there. And I've written it for not only ChatGPT and Grok and Claude and Gemini, but also DeepSeek as well. So I've written this and I've used the specifications on how to write a prompt for each of those different chatbots. And so then it will write it out for you so that you'll get the best output. And I think what's great about it is you get to see how good a prompt can be or what goes into a great prompt. And that gives you sort of an example of how your prompting should develop.
Yeah. And Keven, I think one of the best pieces of advice or tips that you gave all of us a while ago was to ask AI, please ask me any clarifying questions so that you can produce whatever I need you to produce with 100% accuracy. And sometimes that means that it will come back to us with a whole list of questions, especially if it's a bigger project. And we then will have to go back in and you're almost rewriting the prompt again. And sure, it takes a little time, but the peace of mind knowing that AI is genuinely understanding exactly what you needed to understand and in turn will give you results that are far beyond what you could have gotten from a 1 or 2 or 3 sentence prompt. So I totally agree with that. Before I let you go, I know we're wrapping up soon, but I did want to talk real quick about money. Of course, who doesn't? But I want to talk about AI in terms of just the cost of it. I mean, is it cheap? Is it expensive? If we're an SMB that's just kind of starting off, can we afford AI? And then kind of a two-parter to this question is, if you were just starting off right now and exploring different AI tools and LLMs and apps and all the things, what would you recommend so that you're not breaking the bank, but you're still getting good results and you're still using platforms that really will kind of take you down a successful AI journey?
Well, I think everyone should start with a $20 account with ChatGPT. That's a basic starting point. So I think that's where the beginning is. Where you should go from there is, and today, I would say a $20 account with Google Gemini. And I'd say that because Google Gemini or Gemini 3.0 Pro was released last week. And that provides you not only great feedback and results from prompting like ChatGPT does, but it also provides you great imagery too. Not only it can create images, but it can also create images from multiple images. It can change the way things look just by putting information in and prompting it correctly. It can also create infographics. It can create presentations. It's really, really powerful. So that's where I would say at $40 a month, anyone could get started in those areas. Now, to take that further, I would say you probably want to look at Claude is a really good one. Again, it's another $20 a month, but it's really good at writing. I don't think, and I do not recommend that people should actually be going out and buying into the products that are out there that people have slapped and put on top of a user interface on top of a ChatGPT or a Claude or a Grok or a Gemini. I don't think that, even though they're easier to use, I would much rather spend my time and resources and my good earned dollars in my business. I'd be spending it in just a pure chatbot like ChatGPT or Gemini.
I agree. I think that's great. And like you said, even just within our 7-person marketing team, we all use a plethora of different AI channels and LLMs, and it really is dependent on the role, the project, what we want the outcome to be. Sometimes we'll use, 3 different LLMs for one project, just at different stages of the project. And that's kind of how we've built our little rhythm on what kind of works best when we need it. But I do like that advice a lot. I don't think it's extremely expensive to get started. And I think it's just finding out what might work best, for you and your company and employees. Okay, Keven, before I let you go, we're going to start a little series called the Curveball Question. So I'm going to catch you off guard. I think you can handle it though. I want to know about a time where an AI project, the tech was fine, but the outcome failed. Do you have anything that sticks out to you?
Sure. I could tell you something that happened in the last 2 weekends. So I guess shows that I have a pretty boring personal life outside of work. But I've been spending my time in the last few weeks learning how to build AI agents. And so I'm going down the path of, and I'm also building software development along with these agents. And in doing so, I'm doing something which is called vibe coding, or I may be working with Gemini or Google's Gemini, and I'll be working with Claude, and I'll be working with ChatGPT in order to build the agents and also doing development. And in doing so, I was troubleshooting, and I found a problem with one of the workflows I was working on. And this workflow actually builds video scripts, viral video scripts. And what was happening was I was getting an error that was throwing on it every time I was making it work. It was coughing up and making mistakes. So I spent 6 hours on a Saturday going through and working with AI. Now, in this process, I have AI look at what I'm doing, watch what I'm doing, giving it screenshots, telling it, hey, what do I do next? What's the next step here? It's still not giving me the right output. What can I do? What changes do I need to make? And it was having me change the coding in order to do this. And to make a long story short, when I got done with it, we got it all fixed and everything was working. But it really didn't know. I had to help it solve the problem. The one this weekend that I was working on, there was a typo in the generated script, and it was putting it back into the workflow. And instead of it saying AIS, it said ALS. And it was really difficult to see in the code. So what was happening was Claude was looking at it and thinking that it was saying AIS.generated.script, and it wasn't. It was ALS.generated.script. And so it was giving the wrong information and was failing every time. And it took me a little bit of time before I said, hey, this is a typo. Do you see that? And so it said, oh my gosh, you're right. That is a typo. And we had been spending 6 hours trying to troubleshoot this and figure out every which way that it could have been fixed. Now, how do I solve this problem going forward so this doesn't happen again? Not just about typos. It's about how do we go through and look at our workflow or look at the process that we are doing in developing an agent and writing code and for it to troubleshoot effectively. So what I did was I had gone through 2 of my scripts, which were 3 or 4 hours long, using Claude. And what it did, I said, I want you to go back. Once we were done, I want you to go back and I want you to analyze everything that we did in these 2 windows of writing back and forth and working with you, Claude. And I want you to figure out the most efficient process for us going forward so this doesn't happen again. And then I want you to build this into what's called a skill within Claude so that every time that I'm building an N8N agent or I'm building an agentic AI agent and we're working on a workflow, that I want you to follow this process. So I want you to learn from our mistakes here so that we don't have to do this again. And what it did was it took the time, wrote it, and now I have a skill which is called a skill by Claude that it uses. And what it does is it loads that skill in before, anytime I'm starting to work with an agent again, it'll load that skill in and it'll solve that problem in the most efficient manner going forward. So now it'll take time, 30 minutes instead of 6 hours of my time, and now it's learning on how to help itself or help me through that process.
I was just going to say, you're using AI to use AI and you're teaching and training AI. And I think that's a big fundamental too. You know, the more you tell it, the more you teach it, the more you train it, again, you'll cut back on time and you'll get better results.
Here's one more, and I'll give you another example, okay? Yeah. And that is when I'm using, so you may do a lot of work in ChatGPT or you may do a lot of work in Claude, okay? And it learns about you and your organization and the tools that you use and the information about your organization. Now, let's say I want to go over and use Grok, which is Elon Musk's product, which is very good. Or I want to go use Google Gemini, but it doesn't know anything about you because it's never worked with you before. I've asked ChatGPT, and along those same lines of having it learn. So I have ChatGPT because I used it first, and it knows enough about our organization to build me a document that I can just take with me and transfer it over and then paste that into one of the other LLMs. So it now knows as much information that ChatGPT did, and so it can start immediately working with who we are as an organization, AIS is. So what I've done is now I've transferred it from one organization or from one chatbot. Now I've transferred it over to another, and now I'm not losing valuable time teaching it everything about our organization.
Yeah, it's like AI is just an additional coworker.
Yes.
That needs to learn about the company.
It's actually getting to be smarter than me.
We really could talk about AI all day. I don't think any of the podcast listeners understand. I'm telling y'all, Keven is the AI guru. So this is just one of many AI episodes that we're going to be doing here on this podcast, and there will be many more to come. But we wanted to get the ball rolling and start talking a little bit about AI because as everyone knows, it just changes every day. So Kevin's over here doing the hard work for us because he's the one keeping up with it all, and he passes it down and challenges even just our team to do the same. But if you're looking for a new follow on LinkedIn, definitely find Keven Ellison. He shares some great insight, pretty much all things AI and also office technology related. And also make sure to give us a follow on all of our channels. They will be linked all down below, either on the screen or in our notes. We're always sharing new tips and tricks and just what we're up to here at AIS. And that, I think, is a wrap for our first episode. And we hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see y'all next month.
Thank you.
If you found today's conversation helpful, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Every month, we'll bring you fresh, no-fluff insights to help your business make smarter tech moves, minus the jargon. Want to learn more about how AIS is helping small and mid-sized businesses like yours? Give us a call or visit our website, AIS-now.com. We'll see you next time.